Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier with another Paper 2 presentation. So as I always say, be prepared to hit the pause button, and you might be better off watching this on your laptop. In this presentation, we're looking at how we decide the usefulness of sources. And straight away, I should say, this is a question that often appears on your exam paper. And it's a question where too often students miss out on marks that are easily had. So let's see what I've got to say. Without looking at a source or a past or potential question, there are a few questions that immediately come to mind that we can ask about any source. Useful as what? Useful for what? Useful in that it adds to our knowledge, provides valuable evidence, challenges an accepted viewpoint, gives us insight into what an individual or group was thinking. Any of those things. And I don't know if you've thought about this, but a source can be useful and not so useful at the same time. For example, it could be useful as a piece of propaganda, useful in showing us why a body of people thought in a certain way, believed something that wasn't true, but it doesn't help us establish what was true. Now on this slide, I've put the types of potential questions you might face, whatever the chosen topic is for your exam. Note how they are usually specific, but you can get a general question. Simply, how useful is this source? If that's the case, use the overall question that heads your paper. You can't miss it. It will be capitalized and in bold, and it just might help your focus. But note, you will always be instructed, not invited, not do so if you feel like it, but instructed to explain your answer using details of the source and your own knowledge. And if you happen to notice something from one of the other sources that can help your answer, use it. The examiner's reports frequently comment on missed opportunities to use the other sources. But don't go desperately searching for something. Only use something if you remember it from a past question, or it stands out to you if you feel you had the time to quickly scan down the paper. It depends, of course, on what number this question is on your paper. But do use your own knowledge, and of course, do use the source by directly referring to it. Look at what the source says or what it shows, but look behind that too. Look at the provenance and think about the message, its purpose, and the audience. Weak responses tend to comment on the source's usefulness or lack of, and then just take examples from the source as illustrations. You need to explain why something in the source makes it useful or not particularly useful. I've read an examiner's report that actually said students need to find a reason as to why a source might be useful. So, what would make it useful? I've already given some pointers in the first slide, but here's some more. Can we learn from it? What does it show about somebody's thought process, their reasoning, a group's ideology, their policies, the reactions to something, support or opposition to something or someone, why they fear something? That it shows a minority viewpoint could make it useful too. There will be other things to consider, but get used to the idea of asking yourself about a source's usefulness. But there is another way you should look at this. Don't take things at face value. Reliability may be a factor. If claims are made, do they hold up? Cross-check with what you know, or maybe with another source you've noticed. Maybe the source isn't so useful. And don't forget, a source always has an author, a message, a purpose, and an audience. The author, of course, takes you to the provenance of the source, which includes where it was from and its date. And if there is a little added information, and there often is, it's because the chief examiner thinks it's useful for you. So use it. Also, whether a source is private or public can add to its usefulness. A private source might make it more honest, whereas a public source is more easily verifiable, and its intended audience might add to a source's usefulness too, as it gives a hint to its purpose. But its audience, and so its purpose, might just as easily leave you questioning its value. It depends on the source and the specific topic. As for messages in a source, sometimes you will need to infer a message, or a purpose for that matter. Don't be scared of doing that. If you think you're right, you probably are. And on the subject of finding this scary, if what I'm saying sounds too vague, remember, I'm trying to get you to train yourself to think about the many different ways you can approach these questions. Remember, the sources and questions are carefully matched by the examiners who write your paper. You don't have to do everything I suggest here, far from it. If you train yourself by practicing, you'll see the path you should take. Trust me, you will. Don't jump in and presume bias is always a bad thing. Examiners' comments frequently reflect on how poorer answers presumed bias was a bad thing. Think better than that. Bias can be good for an historian. It helps us to know where someone is coming from, tells us about their beliefs, their attitudes. Propaganda can be good too. It indicates the purpose of a source and what lay behind that purpose, as well as what messages people are being given, and so why they might believe something to be true or act in a certain way. Cartoons and photographs can be used in this type of question. And this slide shows you a cartoon that has been used in the past, and some famous photographs that have been edited for political reasons. Now remember, everything in a cartoon is deliberately put there. So think about its message. But think also about the reasons for sending that message. And for that, you will almost surely need to look carefully at the provenance of the source and think about the audience. The same with photographs. What is being shown? Why was it taken? But in a photograph, what is not shown? Was it staged? Has it been edited, like the photographs on this slide? But the reasons behind the photograph might still make it very useful. You need to think carefully. So, whether or not a particular source is useful or not, I do hope this presentation of mine has been useful for you. If you are going to sit your exam soon, the very best of luck. I think I've said on every one of my Paper 2 presentations that this should be a winning paper for you. I certainly hope so. By watching this video and all the other things I'm sure you're doing, you are certainly preparing for it. But for me, for now, I will simply, as always, thank you for listening. Cheers.